Hi, hi, hi. So today we have a little coin pouch project that we are going to do. It's all made in the hoop except for the turning hole. So you have three different versions. You have, it's a little hard to tell, but this one has a stipple stitching. This one has no stitching as a decorative. And this one has a hatch style stitching that's going across it. So it has a snap, and I have added an eyelet just because I think it's kind of nice to be able to carry with you that way. But these are the perfect pocket size. So it just snaps like that. And then, so this is the one that we're going to make today. So the money, you just hold it like that. That way your money is not flying all over the place. And then tuck it back in. And off you go. So this is the one we're going to be making today. And this one here, and this one here, I have done a top stitching on it on a regular machine. But as you can see, you don't have to. That's just an optional look. So let's get started. All right, so the things that we will need to start this project is we will need some cotton material. I'm using a quilting cotton. And you need a front and a back for the outside. You need a lining for the front and for the back on the inside. And I suggest using a Pellon SF101 with a fusing. You can see that there. And for the other one, you can use a second piece of Pellon, or you can choose to use a batting, but it needs to be a very thin batting. So you could use felt, or what I have here is a very thin fusible fleece. You can see how thin it is, and then it has the fusing on that. So that is the materials that we will need, and first things first is to run the placement stitch. Okay, so the tack down was done for the Pellon, and the next thing to do is to cut it out around the outside and then to cut off on the inside of the window, and you want to cut it close to the stitching. All right, so now that that is done, we need to add a piece of the main material for the outside. So because it is a fusing I have used, then I can just put my material on there and give it a little heat, fuse it to it, and then return it to the machine, and we will be running the stipple stitching if you're choosing to do that step, which is optional. Right, so I went ahead, and this one is the all over kind of stipple stitch. The other version is a hatch style, or you can just do it blank with nothing. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to take the lining piece that's going to be on the inside, and you need to take it face down with the right side face down and cover all of that up, and then take it back to the machine and run the tack down for the window hole. All right, so I went and I ran that. A little hard for you to see, but you can see it's stuck. Let's see if I can show you here. So the next thing that we have to do is we need to cut on the inside. So if this is the stitching that's right here, then you need to cut on the inside of it by around, leaving about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. All right. So now that that hole is cut out, we need to cut in little notches so that when this is turned, this material will sit nicely. So what you need to do is you need to cut little notches only up until the stitching. Don't cut the stitching. All right, so what you will have is these little notches cut all the way through to both sides so that when it's turned, this whole thing will lay flat. All right, so now the next thing that you do is, what we need to do is put the inside piece through the hole. So you just tuck it through. And then it comes through the back. And then what you gently do, which is why you need these, so I give it a little steam. And then you just kind of push it, roll it, and iron it into place. So once that is nicely brought through the hole, then go ahead and tape it down. You don't pull it too tight though. All right, so this is what we have. And then you return it to the machine now, and then you do the top stitching that goes around the window. All right, as you can see, when I said window stitching, that's not what I meant. I meant we're doing the outline stitching to hold the front and back together, and then we're doing the window stitching. Have a look at the window stitching, and the next thing that we're going to do is kind of a little optional step. It just helps give you a placement for the snap on this side. All right, so what was done first was the outline stitch, and then the window stitch, and then the little stitch at the top here. That is just to show where the snap placement will go. And that's optional really. So the next thing is to take it out, and then we need to cut out this piece, and you need to cut around the outside stitching, keeping the stitching intact, but cut on this, like cut right next to it. All right, so now that we have this one cut out, there we go, then what we need to do is we need to set it aside, and we are going to be doing hoop number 2. So for hoop number 2, we are going to do the same steps as we did for hoop number 1 for a few of the first steps. So you've got the placement stitch for the batting, which I'm using the very thin, very thin fusible fleece, Don't use anything thick. It'll be too puffy in the finished product. Then after running the tack down, then after the placement stitch, you put the fusible fleece on, you then run the tack down, then you cut off the excess. There's no window in this one, so you don't have to do that. Then you will put on the main material, and then you will run the stipple stitching. And after that, we will come back and add the other piece from hoop 1. So I'm not going to show each one individually taking it off, but I will show you the process. All right, so I went and I have done all of that stitching. So you can see the back. And the stitching that is around the outside, which is the same as this one that I did in black, it actually runs with the stipple stitching on the second hoop. So it's a little hard for you guys to see, but it is there. So you can kind of see where I'm drawing my fingers. So what we need to do is we need to take the piece from hoop number 1, and you need to take that and put it face down, right sides together, and you need to line up the outside stitching on this one with the outside stitching on this one. All right, let's see if I can kind of show you that a bit better. So you can see that the stitching on the outside, right along this edge, is matching with the stitching all the way around. And the next thing that we have to do is put this one back in the machine, and we'll be running the stitch, which will be a tack down for the front pieces, so that we will have a turning hole in the lining. So let's see if we can see that here. There is some stitching that goes right along there. That will be for the turning hole area. And the next and last thing we have to do for stitching is to take the lining piece, and we need to put it right side face together. So that's the right side face down. And then you want to either tape or pin that in place. If you pin, make sure your pins are out of the way. And then we will return it to the machine, and we will do the last stitching that will leave the turning hole open, but it goes around there. The pouch is now done. So you can see that there is the turning hole space right there. There's the back. So what you need to do to cut it out is you need to leave at the turning hole, you need to leave some material, because you need to be able to stitch or glue, or however you're going to do that. So we need to take it out and we need to cut it, but make sure you leave that for the turning hole. So now we need to turn it to the right side. When you've turned it, it's going to actually be on the lining side, which is correct. And this is the best time to make sure that all your edges are nicely turned out. And then you can give it a press. And so now is the time to close up the turning hole. So you can close it up however it is you like. So I like to use a needle and thread to do mine, but I'm going to close it up and then I will be back because I'm not going to make you watch me hand sew. So now I have closed up the turning hole via the stitching. It is a curve and they are a lot harder to close up, not gonna lie, but I feel like the stitching is just the better option for that. I mean, you can glue it if you prefer, but you're not going to see it. It's on the inside. So now we need to take it and turn it to the right side. And be gentle. So now that we have it turned to the right side, one of the options is you could do a top stitch on a sewing machine if you wanted. Looks like that. So this top stitching here that goes all the way around, I just did on a regular sewing machine on that one and that one. So that is an option, and if you're going to do that, now would be the time before you add the snaps. After the snaps, it really is just too difficult to go around. You'll just hit the snaps. All right, so to add the snaps onto this, you have the one center one here that we had done on the inside. It's this little black stitching here. So that would be the one. If you're using a cam snap and you want to go all the way through, I guess you can, but I don't recommend it, because what you really want is you want this to be able to catch on the change, right? So you want it to be able to kind of go like that. If it is pushed all the way through, so if you have this little snap all the way through, then it's not going to catch as well because you don't have that little lip, right? So what I like to do is need to punch a hole in there. All right, so we have the hole there. And for this one, I like to use button snaps. It's just what I have. So you put the post piece through, and then you take this little piece here to put something inside. There we go. All right, so we have that one, and once you have that one in, just kind of fold it over where you want it, and then you'll be able to mark the other one. So the other one can go all the way through. Right, so we have the hole for that one. So there we go. And there is the snap. All right. So now you can leave it like that, and you can just carry it around like that if you want. For this one, I added, besides throwing away the money, I added the eyelet in there so that I could add a little keychain to it. I just thought that would be an easier way to carry it around. So to do that, just get those pieces. All right, so then you need to figure out where it is you want it to go. I suggest not too far down, because then you'll have a problem getting the money. All right, so you find your center here. All right, and what I like to use is a 2-piece washer. So I want this part on the outside. So this is the part that I want on the outside. And then you put it down on top. And when you do that, you need to just make sure that that little post part is kind of sticking through all around. And then you go ahead and you get your washer there. Make sure it's on and around the post. Where did it go? Here it is. Then you need to take your piece on and hammer. So that one doesn't take much. You can see it's a lot nicer with the 2-piece washer, right? So there we have it. And then I am going to add my ring to that. Sorry guys. So a little trick for these rings is they can get hard on the fingers. As you can see, my fingers aren't great. So what I like to do is use a staple puller, and you can put it in between and squeeze it open. So then I'm just going to put this on. There we go. And then I'm going to do that again to put it on here. So you can just kind of slide it over like that. See how much easier that is? And I just use this and squeeze and then put forward, squeeze and put forward. And as you're doing that, you know, if you've used these ones, you know they scratch really easy. So you can squeeze a little harder so that you can avoid getting any edges on the painted part. So there you go. All right, put a bit of money in there, see how it works. And there we have it. Oh my God, sorry, too high. So there we have it. And then you open it, go like this, and voila. Get what you need. Rest goes back in, and it's the perfect pocket size. Right? I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please, please, please subscribe if you haven't. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Have a wonderful day.